I adjusted my tie in the kitchen mirror while the sounds of my father's 60th birthday celebration drifted in from the backyard. The clinking of glasses, bursts of laughter, and the murmur of important people discussing important things, a world I wasn't supposed to be part of. "Marcus, I told you to stay inside." My sister Jennifer appeared in the doorway, her designer dress and perfect makeup a stark contrast to my off-the-rack suit. "Dad's entire board of directors is out there. We can't have you, you know." I knew. My stutter made people uncomfortable. My awkward mannerisms didn't fit the polished image of Reynolds Communications, where Dad had worked his way up from mailroom to vice president over 30 years. "I just wanted to wish him happy birthday," I said. Jennifer's expression softened slightly. "Look, I'll tell him you said it. Just stay here, please. The company president is coming and Dad needs everything to be perfect." I nodded, used to being the family's imperfect piece. What neither of us knew was that Mr. Harrison, the company president, was already there, standing just outside the kitchen door, having heard everything. An hour later, his voice boomed across the yard. "Everyone, if I could have your attention." I watched through the kitchen window as he took center stage by the pool. Dad stood nearby, beaming with pride, probably expecting another speech about his contributions to the company. "Today, we're not just celebrating Richard Reynolds' birthday," Mr. Harrison continued. "We're announcing Reynolds Communications' new CEO." The crowd hushed. Dad straightened his tie, that familiar confident smile on his face. "Marcus Reynolds, would you please join us?" The sound of breaking glass made me jump. Jennifer had dropped her champagne flute. Dad's smile vanished. And suddenly, every head turned toward the kitchen window where I stood, frozen in disbelief. The perfect birthday party had just become perfectly chaotic. The walk from the kitchen to the pool felt like crossing an ocean. Each step was accompanied by whispers, gasps, and the unmistakable sound of my father's nervous laughter, the kind he used when trying to smooth over uncomfortable situations. "Marcus, come on up here." Mr. Harrison's warm voice contrasted sharply with the icy stares from the board members. I could see them exchanging glances, probably wondering if this was some elaborate joke. Jennifer intercepted me halfway. "This is a mistake," she hissed through her perfect smile. "Tell them you can't accept it." But Mr. Harrison was already extending his hand to help me onto the small platform they'd set up for speeches. My father stood to the side, his celebration cake forgotten, his face a mask of confusion and growing concern. "Ladies and gentlemen," Mr. Harrison began, keeping a steady hand on my shoulder, "for the past year, we've been quietly revolutionizing our internal communication systems. Our efficiency has increased by 40%, our employee satisfaction rates have skyrocketed, and our internal software has become so successful that 3 of our competitors have licensed it." The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Dad's brow furrowed. This was his department, but he clearly hadn't heard about these changes. "What many of you don't know," Mr. Harrison continued, "is that these innovations came from an anonymous source within the company. Someone who understood both our technical needs and our human ones. Someone who created a communication system that works for everyone, including those who communicate differently." I felt my face flush as understanding began to dawn on some faces in the crowd. For the past year, I'd been working as a low-level IT consultant at Reynolds Communications, hired through a third-party contractor. No one knew I was Richard Reynolds' son, the one they never saw at company functions. "Marcus," Mr. Harrison turned to me, "would you like to explain your Project Echo to everyone?" The silence was deafening. My father's birthday cake candles flickered in the evening breeze, the 60 numbers casting dancing shadows. I took a deep breath, focusing on the techniques I'd developed while creating my software. Project Echo started because I understood what it felt like to not be heard. I activated my tablet, projecting onto the large screen they'd set up for the birthday slideshow. Traditional business communication assumes everyone processes information the same way. But they don't. As I spoke, my presentation displayed the intuitive interface I'd designed. One that adapted to different communication styles and needs. Text-to-speech, speech-to-text, rhythm-based input for those who thought better in patterns, visual flows for the spatially minded, and dozens of other innovations. The average employee spends 60% of their time trying to fit into a communication style that doesn't match their natural way of thinking. I continued, my stutter lessening as I lost myself in the explanation. Project Echo doesn't try to fix people. It adapts to them. I glanced at my father, who had sunk into a nearby chair, his birthday whiskey untouched. Some people think different means broken. But different perspectives are exactly what we need to solve problems nobody else can see. Jennifer had moved to stand behind Dad, her hand on his shoulder, her expression unreadable. The board members were now leaning forward, several of them taking notes. Mr. Harrison smiled. Project Echo isn't just a software system. It's a philosophy that's going to change Reynolds Communications from the ground up. And who better to lead that change than the person who showed us what we were missing all along? He turned to address the crowd directly. Yes, Marcus has a stutter. He also has an IQ of 160, 3 patents pending, and has already saved this company millions in productivity costs, while working part-time. As a consultant. The silence was broken by slow clapping. To everyone's surprise, it came from old Mrs. Chin, the board's most conservative member. Well, she said, rising from her seat, it seems the Reynolds legacy is taking an unexpected turn. Happy birthday, Richard. Your son has given you quite a gift. The party dissolved into clusters of murmuring executives, leaving my father, Jennifer, and me in an awkward triangle by the pool. The birthday cake's candles had burned down to stubs, wax dripping onto the pristine frosting like tears. How long? Dad finally asked, his voice unusually quiet. How long have you been working at my company? 14 months, I replied, forcing myself to maintain eye contact. I applied through TechForce Consulting under my mother's maiden name, Chen. Jennifer's perfectly manicured hand flew to her mouth. That's why Mrs. Chen was clapping. She knew. She figured it out 3 months ago, I explained. Found me working late one night. But she kept my secret after she saw what I was building. Dad picked up my tablet, scrolling through Project Echo's interface with trembling fingers. All those times you said you were doing freelance web design from home. I was at the office. Night shift. Less people around meant less pressure to talk. I swallowed hard. The cleaning staff were my first test subjects. Did you know Maria has dyslexia? Or that Kevin thinks in patterns because of his autism? They helped me refine the system. While we were hiding you away at family functions, Jennifer whispered, sinking into a chair. God, Marcus, we thought we were protecting you. You were protecting yourselves? Mr. Harrison's voice made us all jump. He'd returned with Mrs. Chen beside him. From what others might think. From discomfort. From difference. He fixed Dad with a stern look. Richard, do you know why I never promoted you to CEO despite your excellent record? Dad straightened in his chair, professional mask sliding back into place. I assumed it was because every time we discussed diversity initiatives, you focused on optics rather than genuine inclusion, Mrs. Chin cut in. We needed someone who understood that different isn't just something to manage, it's something to embrace. Your own son was the perfect example right in front of you, Mr. Harrison added. But you couldn't see it. I watched my father's face as 30 years of carefully constructed certainties began to crack. Jennifer had tears streaming down her face, smearing her perfect makeup. The board meeting is in 5 minutes, Mrs. Chin announced. In the dining room. Marcus, are you ready to present your full vision for the company? I nodded but paused. Could my father present with me? Everyone stared at me in surprise. He knows this company better than anyone, I continued. He understands the old way. I understand the new. Maybe that's exactly what we need, a bridge between what was and what could be. Mr. Harrison's eyebrows rose. Your first executive decision is to share your spotlight with the man who spent years hiding you away? No, I said firmly, my stutter completely gone in that moment of clarity. My first executive decision is to show that Project Echo isn't just about technology. It's about recognizing that everyone has value, even when, especially when they don't fit our preconceptions. Dad looked up at me, really looked at me perhaps for the first time in years. I don't deserve that kindness, son. It's not kindness, I replied. It's strategy. The best kind of change doesn't destroy what came before, it transforms it into something better. Mrs. Chin smiled. The board meeting starts in 4 minutes, gentlemen. I suggest you both get ready to make history. As we gathered our materials, Jennifer touched my arm. Marcus? I'm sorry. For everything. I know, I said. But right now, I need you to do something more important than apologize. I need you to call the cleaning staff back in. All of them. They deserve to be part of this presentation. The cleaning staff? But they're not Dash. They're exactly who needs to be there, I interrupted. Because this isn't just about me becoming CEO. It's about making sure no one else ever feels like they need to hide who they are to belong. The Reynolds Communications boardroom had never seen a meeting quite like this one. 20 board members in bespoke suits sat alongside cleaning staff in uniforms. Maria, her dyslexia accommodation glasses perched on her nose, sat next to the CFO. Kevin, still wearing his custodial badge, was explaining his pattern recognition system to two fascinated vice presidents. My father stood at the front of the room, his birthday tie slightly askew, looking simultaneously out of his element and exactly where he needed to be. I watched him scan the unusual crowd, decades of corporate conditioning battling with dawning understanding. For 30 years, he began, his voice catching slightly, I've been proud to help build this company's reputation for excellence. But today I learned that excellence isn't what I thought it was. He looked at me, then at Maria and Kevin. My son showed me that. I stepped forward, pulling up Project Echo's full schematics on the display wall. What you're looking at isn't just a communication system. It's a complete reimagining of how we work, think, and interact. For the next 2 hours, we presented the future of Reynolds Communications. Dad handled the traditional business metrics, market penetration, profit projections, scalability. I demonstrated how Project Echo could transform everything from hiring practices to client relationships. Imagine, I said, my stutter present but no longer something I tried to hide, a workplace where everyone can contribute in their natural way. Where success isn't measured by how well you fit the mold, but by how effectively you break it to create something better. Maria stood up. Show them the language matrix, Marcus. The one you built after I told you about my struggles with written reports. I pulled up a dynamic interface that transformed text into various formats simultaneously, visual patterns, audio flows, color-coded hierarchies. Every brain processes information differently. Why should we force everyone to communicate in just one way? Standardization is efficient, said Mr. Peterson, the oldest board member. Structure keeps everything in order. Really? Kevin asked, surprising even himself. Then why did productivity go up 40% when Marcus let us try the new tools? And why did error rates drop 65% in departments using Project Echo? Dad stepped forward. Because real efficiency isn't about making everyone follow the same rules. It's about building systems that work for different people. He looked at me differently, like he truly respected me. My son showed me that what I thought were weaknesses were actually our biggest strengths. Jennifer, my sister, raised her hand. But won't this level of customization cost too much? I smiled. That's where Dad comes in. We created a plan to roll it out in phases using the resources we already have. As Dad and I explained the details, something amazing happened. People started talking to each other, cleaning staff chatting with executives, board members asking questions, even Mrs. Chin showing Mr. Peterson how to use a new tool. The walls between ranks were disappearing. Near the end, Mr. Harrison stood up. Marcus, I picked you as CEO because of your ideas. But today I see I didn't fully understand your value. You brought together people who usually don't even talk to each other. This isn't just about new tools, it's about changing what corporate culture really means. And it happened because someone we tried to ignore refused to go unnoticed. Everyone voted yes. As people left, Dad pulled me aside. His eyes were red, and he looked more like a real person than the polished businessman I'd always known. I spent your whole life trying to fix you, he said softly. You didn't realize I wasn't broken? I asked. No, he said. It was me who was. 6 months into my time as CEO, Reynolds Communications had changed completely, and for the better. We no longer worked in strict departments. Teams were built around how people best communicate. Our office had quiet rooms for those who liked peace, active spaces for people who learned by moving, and areas for team collaboration. Dad had become one of our strongest supporters. As Chief of Cultural Transformation, a title he once laughed at, he now helped others understand and support our new way of working. Remember when you made me practice speeches for hours? I asked him one evening. He looked down, ashamed. I thought I was helping. I thought if I could make you normal, then we wouldn't have had Project Echo, I said. Sometimes our best ideas come from our hardest struggles. There was a knock at the door. Jennifer walked in, no longer the picture-perfect executive. She wore relaxed clothes and had blue streaks in her hair, part of our be-yourself-at-work culture. The Peterson team needs you too, she said. They're struggling to explain our inclusive design model. At the meeting, Mr. Peterson's son frowned. It's too radical. Our investors want safety, not social experiments. I looked at Dad. He nodded and spoke. James, Dad said, his voice steady, I used to think stability meant corner offices, matching suits, and everyone speaking the same. But look at our numbers. Employee retention is up 80%, customer satisfaction is the highest it's ever been, and our innovation has tripled. That's what real stability looks like. I stepped in. My stutter was still there, but it didn't matter. True stability comes from embracing differences, not hiding them. Jennifer showed a live feed from our office. Maria was running a visual thinking workshop, Kevin was improving supply chains using his unique skills, and new hires were being valued for what made them different, not how well they fit a mold. Your dad, James said to me, used to be the most old-school leader I knew. What changed? Dad smiled, putting a hand on my shoulder. I had to let go of what I thought success was. My son didn't need to be fixed. Our idea of human potential did. Do you really think this can work in a traditional company? James asked. Traditional just means familiar, I said. Email was radical once. So was remote work. Today we believe celebrating human diversity is not just right, it's smart business. Jennifer added, this is about more than disability or neurodiversity. It's about using everyone's unique way of thinking. And it all started, Dad said, when we stopped trying to fix people, and fixed the system instead. After James left, with a signed contract for our biggest project yet, the three of us stood looking out at the city. Some birthday gift this turned out to be, Jennifer said, nudging Dad. He laughed, a real warm laugh. Best gift I ever got. My son helped me see that everything I thought was a weakness was really a hidden strength.